Alright, boys, so today we're going to be building two teams for the Kitakami Prologue. Now, I have built and tested these a little bit in advance, but I thought it'd be fun to give you guys, basically the thought process I use when building these teams. I will also be making rental codes for these teams. Now, I'm not sure if those rentals will actually be, usable in the Kitakami Prologue itself, but look, if you think the teams look funny, you want to take them onto the, Reg E ladder, go for that, but I'll show them off during the outro. So anyway, when I was basically preparing to build these teams, right, I kind of went in with two mindsets. Sorry, with a mindset with two different ideas. So essentially, for those of you who don't know, if you have, a copy of Scarlet and a copy of Violet, you can actually, use two different teams because they technically you can register them separately, yeah? So when you register for a tournament like the Kitakami Prologue, you lock into one team, right? So I build one team, I'm locked in, I can't change it, I can't adjust the team, that's my team, right? So for me, I thought it'd be fun to build two different teams, use one on my Scarlet version, one on my Violet version, and yeah, basically that was going into it, I'm like, all right, I want two teams. Now, the first team I wanted to build around was actually my guy Politoed, right? So as a lot of you guys know, if you've been around the channel for a little bit, I'm a huge Politoed fan. And while I do think Politoed in Regulation E is a decent Pokemon, I'm not sure if I'll be able to bring it to an event like, for example, the Brisbane Regional. So for me, I'm like, you know what, Kitakami, this is the time, right? This is the #1 time to build around Politoed. Now, I just want to quickly give a quick shout out to the homie Ice Fraud. He gave me a link to this website here. This is Liberty Notes. I believe this is a Japanese website. As you can tell, I can't read any of it. I don't have a translator on, so yeah, not ideal. Basically, they do a pretty decent job here of basically just breaking down Pokemon, right? So you got normal types, fire types, water types, electric types, grass types, so on and so forth, yeah. And another cool thing they do is actually speed tiers, right? So you see Barraskewda is the fastest, Weavile, blah, 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 yeah, going down. So I looked at this, quite a bit, quite extensively while building the team, and, it kind of gave me, a bunch of great ideas. So basically, first things first with this team was I was like, all right, I want to build around Politoed. What does Politoed need? Politoed needs water types, right? Ideally, swift swimmers, yeah? So first thing I did here was I went to the water types. I looked at them, yeah? So, you got Poliwrath, that's decent. Obviously, Politoed's going to be on the team. Ludi's got Swift Swim, Prologue could actually be pretty good as well. Banded Adaptability, Aqua Jets in the rain are pretty strong. We got Dreadnought, we got Barraskewda, we got, Basculin Legion. Water Ogerpon is also a really solid option, yeah? So I said to myself, right, we need two strong water types on the team, at least two more additional water types, because I really want to, be able to abuse the rain, right? So firstly, obviously, Ludicolo was my guy. I'm like, I love Ludi. Ludi's kind of similar to what I was saying with Politoed before, where if I really want to use this mon, this is it. After the Kitakami Prologue, I don't know if I'll ever effectively be able to, build a team around these two mons where I can compete, at a pretty high level, right? And then obviously I was looking at rain, and I think without a doubt the best rain one is Basculin Legion. So we can lock in the male Basculin Legion here. Ghost typing is great, Last Respects is great. So this was basically the core of the team. Yeah, so I'm sitting there, I'm like, these are my core three, but basically how do I at this point really kind of start covering for some weaknesses? And in my testing, one of my biggest issues I had in particular was Water Ogerpon. Now, Basculin Legion late game can clean up Water Ogerpon, no problem. Spiky Shield can be a bit annoying, but thankfully Last Respects does not make contact. And Ludicolo with Helping Hand is actually pretty decent into it. I'm pretty sure a Helping Hand Life Orb Energy Ball, which by the way with Life Orb, was actually able to pick up. I might have to double check that calc, maybe it was no bulk. But a Helping Hand Energy Ball does KO. But if they do get the special defense boost, it becomes a bit tricky. And again, maybe I don't want to bring my Ludicolo, right? If they've got a Water Absorb on, sometimes you just don't want to bring basically 3 water types into the matchup, right? So I'm kind of looking around. I'm like, what else do we need? So I started looking at a lot of flying types, right? And, again, I was using this website here to help me out. Where are our flying types? Our flying types are here, yeah. And I'm looking. I'm like, damn, there's no good flying types. And then I kept looking, and I'm like, oh, there's no good flying types. I also want something that just resists Ogerpon. I'm like, I want a dragon. I'm looking through the dragons, Garchomp's probably the best dragon, standalone dragon in the game, at least sorry, in the Kitakami Prologue. Issue with Garchomp was well, it doesn't resist grass, it doesn't resist water, it's neutral to them, yeah. And then it's there's Gudra, but I don't want to play Gudra. There's Komodo, but I'm I don't really want to play Komodo without Clef and some support. And then I noticed Noivern was there. Now Noivern was the one I ended up going with. Spoiler alert here. Noivern actually gives me a lot of options, right? So one thing is it gives me a Stab Hurricane. So Stab Hurricane is fantastic, obviously, into the Ogerpon. It's really good into Sinister, which I also expect is going to be everywhere. It's just good, yeah? It also hard walls Water Ogerpon. Obviously, this is 4x resistance to the grass typing, and it also resists the water typing, which is pretty cool. Draco is also just decent, right? It's just a good damage move. We all love it. It also gives me Tailwind support as well. So I was like, you know what? This, to me, seems fantastic, right? We have Tailwind support. We have a really strong Hurricane. Helping Hand plus Hurricane and Tera Flying as well, because I'm going Tera Flying on this is really good. Frisk in a best of one format as well is really good as well, especially when we don't have open team sheet. You know, I can lead this and be like, okay, that's like a Rocky Helmet, you know, Sinister. He's probably clicking Trick Room turn 1. And the beauty of this is like, if a Sinister looks at my Noivern, he's probably thinking, yeah, that guy, he's just setting up Tailwind, yeah, I don't care about that guy. But all of a sudden, a Tera Flying Hurricane with a Sharp Beak, which by the way is what I decided to go with. I'm sure you'll be like, why not Focus Sash? I'll get to that shortly. But yeah, basically Tera Flying, Helping Hand, Hurricane with Sharp Beak was really good. In my testing, there's a lot of ones where I'm like, hey, that is actually insane. I'm pretty sure it actually picks up Terra'd Ogre-Pawns as well. Like the Tera Flying, Hurricane, Sharp Beak, Helping Hand will just like KO any Ogre-Pawn. Except for like probably Tera Water Ogre-Pawn. But obviously at that point, it's like, it's whatever, yeah. So I have that. They're like, you know, I'm like, okay, Noivern, it's fantastic on this team. And then, you know, speaking of Ogre-Pawn, I'm like, damn, I really just need an Ogre-Pawn. Ogre-Pawn is just a really good mon. I'm looking at the 4 different versions of it. Water Ogre-Pawn was like kind of interesting. But I'm like, I don't really want 4 water types. Fire Ogre-Pawn was like, maybe if I like run a, you know, a version outside of rain, and I was testing a lot of Fire Ogre-Pawn. But then I just said to myself, you know, what's the point? I'm playing this team to play Politoed. I don't want a non-Politoed mode. So we ended up deciding to go with just Grass Ogre-Pawn. I did end up deciding to go Focus Sash. I was looking at a couple different options, but I do think Sash is probably just the most consistent. And then, yeah, we were going for things like Ivy Cudgel, obviously. Stomping Tantrum giving us a ground move's good. Spiky Shield is nice. But then it also gave me a Taunt option as well, which I did think was pretty good, especially into like things like Clef and whatnot, which I really enjoyed, like, you know, being able to like Taunt a Clef. Also, you know, pretty decent, for example, like a lot of Komoos like to go, you know, like, for example, you know, if you go Komoo plus Cleft, they'll go for like Clangorous Soul, and then they'll just like turn 1 heal Pulsar, right? Especially if you lead something like Ogre-Pawn with like, hey, you can't touch me, but then you taunt it, it like side heals a mon that's already full HP. It's just whatever, yeah. But then I'm like looking at it, and there's like, basically the one thing that like really scares me at this point, right, is like Mouse Ape. I'm like, damn, like Mouse Ape I think is going to be really good in this format. And I feel like I don't have an answer to it. Not to mention, I'm running like a bunch of mons that like are kind of weak to electric. Like, you know, sure, like, you know, Noivern and Ludicolo are like Ludicolo and neutral because of their secondary typings. But I'm like, I don't really like electric. I'm like bad into Mouse Ape. And then I was like, you know what? Let's get that World Champ difference. And I decided that a Follow Me Pachirisu was actually the mon I wanted. So a big thing as well, and this is probably not going to be something I see like a lot. But a Thunderwave Gyarados did mess me up in my testing. I was like, you know what? Pachirisu looks really good. Rocky Helmet here is like also really good. But it also gives me a fast Encore mon as well, which was like, for me, I'm like, you know what? That's great, because you get into like a lot of these late game scenarios where people will like start protecting on you, and it just gets annoying. And if you can like Encore someone into a protect late game, it's great. Nuzzle is also like a fantastic move. Super Fang is also a fantastic move. And then obviously, you know, Follow Me is just great, right? It's fantastic. Yeah, so that's kind of basically how I ended up like on this team, right? I'm okay, this is my team, but now I need to really start, you know, working on the spreads, working on what I'm going to do. And I'm still torn at this point with my Politoed's item. At this point, I think we're going to go Damp Rock. Just because it does feel like, with the way I'm playing in particular, I'm kind of just wishing I had an extra turn or two. I did have Citrus Berry to help out with Bulk, but I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I think that extra like 1 or 2 turns of rain is going to be the big difference. Because like I get to a lot of situations where I'm like, my Politoed's like 30% HP. I don't want to save it, but I'm on my last turn of rain, and I'm like, I kind of need to save it because I'm so reliant on my Swift Swim. So we ended up going with Damp Rock Politoed. In terms of the moves, we just went Muddy Water, we went Icy Wind as our 2 main offensive moves here. I was tossing and turning between Ice Beam, but because there aren't things like, you know, for example, you know, Landorus in the format, I was like, you know what? Icy Wind just gives me a good secondary speed control. Helping Hand, as we touched on, there's a lot of calcs where Helping Hand's really important for. And then finally, there's a lot of different things you can go for here. Obviously, you know, Haze is a really good one, especially for setup. Protect's obviously really solid. There are other offensive moves, like I think Earth Power and Psychic also have a merit into like a lot of the poison types. I ended up deciding to just go with Perish Song. Main reason for that is because I want to be able to like put myself into a position where I'm just going for like Helping Hand KO, Perish, and start pivoting. That's kind of like the idea behind it, right? Yeah, just want to like, I want to quickly get my 1 or 2 KOs and then just Perish Trap them, or sorry, Perish them and just win the game like that. And then look, in terms of EVs here, it was really just trying to get as much physical bulk on this mon as I could while still putting a little bit of, you know, like special attack in. Basically to split the defenses like this. I ended up just going to the bump here on the special attack because I'm like, you know what, if I go like 172 here, that's still a lot of, you know, physical defense. It just allows me to go modest, and it means that my Muddy Waters will still do quite a bit of damage, right? So that was that for my Politoed. The Tera we ended up going with here was Tera Grass. I think it's just a good, defensive Tera. Obviously, you set up the rain for yourself. You don't care about, fire types. There's not that many good flying types in the meta. So I was like, all right, bang, Politoed, he's the guy. Our guy Ludicolo here, this was pretty simple. This is just straight up offense. Yeah, you go Fake Out, you go Hydro Pump, you go Energy Ball, and you go Ice Beam. Yeah, pretty simple. We're out here to attack. We're just going max with Modest. That's mild. We want Modest. Yeah, basically that was the game plan. Yeah, just go max. Just this guy's here to do damage, right? And a cool thing too, like with this here, we can see that like Barrascuda is like the fastest mon in the format. Barrascuda is not a mon I'm necessarily that scared of, but we're just going max anyway, just in case we run into some mirror matchups, But yeah, pretty simple. Ludicolo's job here is like, he's a swift swimmer. His job is to deal damage. Helping Hand, Life Orb makes this one hit really damn hard. And Terra Water, Hydro Pump can get you out of a lot of tricky situations. Then we get to the guy here, Basculegion. Now, I was playing around a bit with Mystic Water. Originally, I was like, you know what? I like Protect, We don't have Protect on the first 2 mods. Kind of want Protect here. And then I said to myself, you know what? I just need to kill things late game. Barrascuda's job on this team is basically to be a late game sweeper, right? So obviously you got Wave Crash, you got Aqua Jet. They're like pretty standard. Last Respect as well. And then I was like looking at it. I'm like, you know what? Flip Turn actually could be pretty good on this mon. And so I said to myself, you know what, Scott? Let's just go simple, yeah. Let's just go, Adamant, max speed, put a point in special defense. This is great. It knows my set already, apparently. Let's just go maximum offense. Like, Barrascuda's job is to... Sorry, not Barrascuda. Basculegion's job is to come in late game and absolutely just sweep through teams, yeah. Terra Grass, because, again, stuff grass type moves. This mon, I was running into issues in particular with this mon versus things like Water Ogerpon, where, like, maybe they have, like, redirection and then they just one-shot me when I was playing Terra Water. So I'm like, you know what, Terra Grass, again, good defensive Terra. Let's go with that, yeah. Then we got our boy Noivern. Noivern was an interesting one because, like, again, his moveset we've already gone through. In terms of EVs, I was like thinking, do I go bulky? Do I go modest? Blah, blah, blah. I ended up deciding just to go timid, max. I would have loved to have maybe dropped a little bit of speed because I think it was like the one we wanted to outspeed here was Mousehold. But the issue is Mousehold hits 179, and I think if we go modest, we hit 175 off memory. Yeah, so we're just short of a jolly Mousehold, and because of that, we're like, you know what, let's just go timid. And then I was like umming and ahhing, like, do I like run it down to like 180 and invest in bulk? And it's like, it's probably decent, but I just like the idea of just having max speed just in case, right? Like, this mon's job is not to stick around for a long time. It originally was my Focus Sash one as well, which is kind of why I just committed to the max speed. But I was like, you know what? This mon's job is, it's here for, a good time, not a long time. It's either setting up Tailwind or it's going for, like, Hurricanes, right? Just very, very simple. Same with Ogerpon. This guy's just max. I was torn about going bulky, but if I find myself in a situation where I'm going up against any other Ogerpon, I really think this Ogerpon has the ability to beat them. Obviously, Ivy Cudgel into the Water type is good. Ivy Cudgel into the Rock type is good. And then Stomping Tantrum into the Fire type is good. But again, I don't think the Fire type's coming into my Rain team. Taunt's just good. Focus Sash is just reliable. Defiant's fantastic in a metagame where I think there'll be a lot of Icy Wind, potentially a bit of Intimidate. And I'm pretty sure if you get the crit on Ivy Cudgel at +1, you're like always killing things like Gyarados and whatnot, which is fantastic. And then finally, the guy Pachirisu. Gameplay with him was just making bulky. Yeah, classic me. Just go up to max there. Go 244. We ended up deciding to go for 220 speed. Now, I believe the reason for 220 was because of Annihilate off top of my head. We wanted to make sure we outsped Annihilate. And then we just pumped the rest into here. Basically, the reason we wanted to outspeed Annihilate is because if it goes for like a bulk up, we can encore it. And basically just, keep it trapped there. Also, it allows us to outspeed it with Nuzzle and stuff like that, just to be annoying. And Fast Encore, I think, is also really good in this metagame. Like, if, say, for example, they go for like an SD Ogerpon, we Nuzzle them, we're now faster, we then just Encore them into that. If they go Spiky Shield, we Encore them into that. Yeah, it's just really, really good. And then the Tera, this was funny. Like, I was building this with some of my friends, and we were like kind of joking around about like Dragon Tera, and I'm like, they're like, oh, like, do you really think Dragon Tera is good? I'm like, yeah, I think Dragon Tera is really good. And on Pachirisu, I think it's insanely good. Because again, you just sit in front of all the Ogerpons and you just go Tera Dragon, follow me, and they hurt. Don't get me wrong, they hurt. Like, they do a lot of damage, but you resist all of them. And I just think it's a good like defensive Tera overall, right? Like, it just does enough to be half decent. And the Volt Absorb is just good, yeah. So that's the first team there, guys. I was like, you know what? Rain team, Politoed, that's my guy. This is what I'm building. And then so the second idea I had was, I'm a Tailwind player and I'm really enjoying Tailwind, Sunny Day, Ogerpon, Hearthflame. So I was like, you know what? let's build another team around Ogerpon, Herflame. You know, I'm doing it in Reg E. Let's do it in Kitakami Prologue. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I want fast. I want sunny day, right? Well, so I want sun. So I was looking at Ninetales, and I'm like, I just don't think Ninetales is the guy. And I also think rain is just going to be the best weather, right? I truly think rain's going to be the best weather. And Politoed severely underspeeds Ninetales, so it just feels weird to, like, bring Ninetales into a format where I think I'm going to see quite a bit of Politoed. So I ended up going for the Prankster Tailwind plus Sunny Day setter in Ilamize, right? So Ilamize, however you say it. It's a Prankstamon, you know, one of the best Prankstamons, at least, sorry, it is the best Prankstamon in this format in particular. It's not very well statted, like, it looks pretty bad, but it gets Prankster Tailwind, and it gets Prankster Sunny Day, so I'm like, alright, that's it, that's all I need, that is the job, yeah. So then I'm, like, looking at the metagame, and I'm like, you know what, Ilamize is probably the best Tailwind setter in the game. What can I do to stop Ilamize from setting up Tailwind, right? And again, there is no Prankster Taunt, right, which means Covet Cloak is just going to be king. Basically, Fake Out would be the best way to stop this thing. You know, Ghost Terror is kind of annoying, but Cover Cloak is the way to go about it, right? And I'm, like, looking at the metagame. I'm like, I think Fire Ogerpon is probably the best, you know, one in the format. I also think Ilamize is going to be, like, a premier Tailwind setter. Like, how can I deal with this, yeah? How can I deal with it? Then it hit me, right? Ilamize max speed is 150, for those of you who don't know. So if you go Timid, you hit 150, right? So I'm like, okay, that one's pretty, you know, it's relatively quick here. How do I outspeed this? What priority move is there in the game that outspeeds this and then one-shots it? You know, we don't have D-Knight. I don't think, you know, an Arcanite's ever going to, you know, better outspeed it and KO with, like, a Banded E-Speed. Like, it's just rough. Like, what do I do? Then it hits me, boys. Lycanroc Dusk with Tough Claws, Accelerock, Choice Band, right? Now, I do think Lycanroc into these two mons in particular is really freaking good. And now, like, I'm so torn right now sitting here talking to you guys about this because, like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, do I go Adamant or do I go Jolly? Adamant allows you to one-shot no bulk Ogerpons always, right? So Tough Claws boosts your Accelerock. With Choice Band, it always one-shots, right? On my own Ilamize as well, I have Helping Hand, yeah? So you should, I think it's like, there's a 99% chance that Accelerock will KO this, like, spread in particular. So I'll show you, like, this is my Ilamize spread. 244, and then just, I split the defenses here. There is a 99 or 98% chance that I one-shot this with a Accelerock, right? So they would have to be very physically bulky to tank this, right? And also not be max speed. But on top of that as well, Helping Hand is just great. Not to mention, Rock Slide just KOs both these mons, yeah? If I'm in a position where I can get the Rock Slide off, I just KO both mons, right? So really good. I'm like, you know what? Banded Lycanroc, that's my guy. I think it's like a really, really cool niche pick that won't get picked up too much, but also still be really good. And then I'm like sitting here, right? And I'm thinking, you know what? Like, I need another answer to the Ogerpons that aren't the Fire Ogerpons, right? Like, Fire, you know, Fire Ogerpon and, you know, Lycanroc are decent into, you know, Fire Pon in particular, but I don't necessarily have a good answer into the Water Ogerpon, right? Water Ogerpon kind of messes me up at this point. I'm like, obviously, I'm in Sun, but what happens, you know, if they outplay me with the Rain and whatnot? So I'm like, okay, I need a Chlorophyll Mon. Thankfully, a lot of the Chlorophyll Mons are Grass types, right? For me, that's great. But then we look at it, right? And you got Victory Bell, you got Shiftry, you got Levani, you've got, you know, this guy here, Lilligant. And, like, that's it, yeah. It's kind of looking rough. And I'm like, is there, like, really any that is that good? And, like, the answer is probably no. But that was one mon I saw. I'm like, you know what? I have to do it. I have to play Victory Bell. Victory Bell, to me, just seems really good versus these guys, right? So, obviously, Victory Bell, it's a Chlorophyll user. I'll just quickly check this here. I went Life Orb. My Victory Bell is Life Orb because I was running Calcs, and I'm like, dude, like, you actually don't KO anything without Life Orb. I'm pretty sure I'm also, like, Modest here as well. Like, Modest back. So I'm like, okay, like, I really, really need, like, Life Orb. Life Orb's an absolute must. But I'm like, okay, what do we want? I'm like, well, Energy Ball is good. It's your best stab move in terms of just, like, consistency. Sludge Bomb is your other, you know, consistent stab move. Really good into every Ogerpon form outside of the Rock one. But again, you got Energy Ball for Rock, so that doesn't necessarily matter. And then I'm sitting here like, what's my last move? And then it hits me, yeah. You know, we've got Sunny Day. We're trying to abuse it. A great defensive Terra on a one like this is Terrafire. Let's just go Weather Ball. Let's go Weather Ball, Terrafire, boys. That was it. That was the sauce. I'm like, you know what? Maybe this mon can actually do something, yeah? Maybe it can do something. And then again, I was like looking at like what I need to outspeed and whatnot. I ended up going 105 speed. Technically, you only need 104 in the metagame, but I went 105 for a particular reason. We'll go over that later. And then I think I just went to like 169. Yeah, just like basically, for those of you who don't know why we go 169, it is just because that is a bump number. I also went down by 2 here, actually. I just realized. Yeah, it was like that. Basically, Life Orb takes 10% of your health, so you want to end in like a number by 9. That's just efficient, yeah? It's just so we, you know, take minimal damage from recall, for those of you who didn't know. So I'm like, okay, bet. Like, there it is. Like, we now have our, like, our Chlorophyll Mon, yeah? It feels good. We feel really fast here. We have, you know, 2 really quick Mons and then a Chlorophyll Mon to abuse our Sunny Day. And then I'm like, you know what? We kind of need, like, Anti-Trick Room, but, like, I also really want a Mon that is, like, good in Sun. And shout out to the homie Lukey VGC, because he's the one who actually suggested this one to me. We were tossing and turning. I had so many different Mons in these last 2 slots. I was looking at things like Ambipom. I was looking at like Salazzle. But he ended up convincing me Chandelure was the guy. Now, Chandelure is good for a couple reasons on a team like this. One of which, Flash Fire is really good into things like, you know, the Ogerpon. It's like really good into Fire Ogerpon, because obviously a team like mine like buffs Fire Ogerpon because I'm setting up the Sun for him most of the time. And maybe, you know, it's just not a good Lycanroc game. It has Heat Wave in the Sun, which is like really good. Shadow Ball is also just like a decent move. And then also, because we're a Ghost type, we can afford to go the Trick Room in Prison and not have to worry about, you know, things like Taunt or, you know, Fast Fake Out, right? So that feels pretty damn good. And because we're Focus Sash, we basically just went modest, max special attack, max speed. This was the game plan here. We're just like, you know what, let's just hit as hard as we can, put this guy in a position where he can do a lot of work. Terra Grass was just like basically the, like, it's kind of like the Tera where it's like, hey, it gives us a water resist, and obviously, you know, we don't care about fire. It's similar to how like Armarouge and like what's the other one, Cerulege play, yeah, very similar. It's just you've got the fire immunity. You're a fire ghost type. Just get the grass. It's consistent. And then finally, you know, to round things out here, again, shout out to the homie Lukey. He gave me the recommendation for this one too. But I'm looking at the team. I'm like, boys, we're just really weak to rock types. You know, Ogerpon dies to him. Illumise dies to him. Chandelure dies to him, right? Like, obviously, you know, there's Terras, but, like, Illumise, I don't want to Terra it. Ogerpon, it's probably not, like, gonna Terra. I mean, sorry, it's gonna Terra, but it's not gonna get rid of the weakness. And Chandelure can obviously get around it, but at the same time, with Focus Sash, it doesn't matter, yeah? Your boy was testing things like Garchomp, but then I found out Illumise was a bug type and not a bug flying type, which really annoyed me, because I'm like, hey, this is it. Like, banded, you know, go, like, banded Earthquake, right? Because originally I was running... Before Chandelure, I had a, what's it called? A Gardevoir there. So I'm like, oh, Telepathy plus, you know, EQ. Turns out Illumise is not a flying type. Who would have known? You know, the bond's just not good. So I guess I didn't know it. But Lukey goes, hey, Ursaluna Blood Moon is the guy. I'm like, bet. Ursaluna Blood Moon is the guy. But then I'm sitting here, I'm like, what set do I go on Ursaluna, yeah? And like, in particular, I'm like looking at the speed stats, yeah? And I'm like, you know what? He hits 104. And what did we say, boys? 104 under Tailwind outspeeds everything in the metagame. Yeah, so obviously, you know, you need 107, for those of you who don't know, to outspeed a Dragapult. In this metagame, Barraskewda is the fastest Mon. I don't think Barraskewda is going to be good, but with 104, we outspeed it. What does that mean? It means we get to go max with a, I didn't go max actually, I went this. We get to go max with a Modest Nature. Fantastic, we hit really damn hard. And then at this point, I think it was just something like, I think I just went like 4. I think that's it. I think that's the set I went with. But yeah, it's deceptively fast because obviously at +2 it should outspeed everything as long as they don't have a boost as well. And then with Assault Vest, the mod is just pretty damn good, yeah. You know, it's pretty tanky. You know, it's got the Blood Moon, it's got the Hyper Voice, it's got the Earth Power, which again, Earth Power in this metagame was pretty good. And then finally, we ended up going with Moonblast just because, like, you know, I feel like we need a Fairy type, and this metagame has no good Fairy types, by the way. Like, there are none. So Ursaluna, like, best Fairy type in the metagame. So that's the team we went with. Let's kind of just, I guess, break down the sets we went with now. You know, obviously some of them I've kind of dug into. Let's just finish them off, yeah. Ogerpon, pretty simple. I love this guy. It's just Ivy Cudgel and then Wood Hammer. I know a lot of people run other things. I'm just a big fan of Wood Hammer. I like the extra damage. I like knowing I'm going to pick up a KO. But yeah, then we just went Follow Me. We went Spiky Shield, just max. The reason I'm running max is because I don't want to lose the war to other Ogerpons. I've had situations where I speed tie a water Ogerpon. It just one-shots me. It's not fun. So I don't ever want to be in that situation. So with Ogerpon plus Illumiz's Tailwind, we pray to God we get it. I've already shown you guys the sets here as well. The final move on Illumise. Now, I have actually been kind of like tossing and turning on this. Actually, I don't run Helping Hand. I said Helping Hand. I didn't actually decide on Helping Hand. I wanted Helping Hand. I went against it. So we got Struggle Bug here. Basically, just an offensive move we wanted. Struggle Bug's also really good, especially into things like Komodo. I had matchups where, like, you know, they just go like the Follow Me plus like Clangering Scales or whatever it is, Clangering Souls, and then you just spam Struggle Bug and it's hilarious. It's great. And then finally, I decided Charm. Charm was basically the move I was like, you know what? It's just really good. You sit there, you spam it out, and then you neuter a lot of mons, yeah? It's good, it's good. Tera for this, similar to what I was saying about Pachirisu, I just want Tera Dragon. I don't think I'm ever going to Tera my Illumise, but if I've got it, it's there. It allows it to tank Ogre Pawns. It feels good. On the homeboy here, we ended up just going Tera Ghost, because I don't want to be in a situation where I'm getting faked out. And then to close things out here, I just went with CC plus Crunch. Basically, I think King Gambit is going to be a good mon in the metagame because of that. Just went to CC. And then Crunch was just, just kind of like a move where I'm like, I'm probably never clicking this last move anyway. But I'm going to put it there just in case, right? Just in case. And then I decided, as I said, I'm still tossing and turning. Right now, I'm sitting on Adamant. I might change it before the event starts because technically I haven't locked in the team yet. But right now, I'm sitting on Adamant just because I like that little bit of extra power because Jolly does not one-shot Ogre Pawn, whereas Adamant does. So that's why we're going with that. Victory Bell, I've already shown off the set here. That is my Victory Bell spread. I think actually I've shown off the rest of the sets. Yeah, okay, that's the rest of the sets. Yeah. Anyway, that's I guess that's like the sets. That's the teams. I guess let me know what you think of the teams down below. I'm gonna run the outro though, and I'll chuck up those pays for you guys. Boys, thank you for reaching the end of the video. If you enjoyed the content and you want to support the channel, smash the like button and consider subscribing. Your support means the world to me. Also, if you want to support the channel further, you can become a member. All money I make will be reinvested into the channel and traveling to play VGC. And finally, boys, join the Discord. In there, we talk all things Pokemon, not just VGC. We also talk about other games, anime, and much, much more. I hope to see you there. But anyway, boys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.